Well, thank you for helping with my project.
Yeah, no problem.
So, can you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jigar. I have I completed my master's of science in mechanical engineering, uh, just like 2 days ago. So
Congratulations.
thank you, and I've interned at Boeing in their Houston office on the International Space Station. So um, and also in Philadelphia on some other projects, and uh, I have general interest in space exploration, technology, and pushing boundaries of human technology in general.
That sounds really amazing. How was your internship? Did you like it? Was it what you were hoping for?
I think I learned a lot about the industry and what to expect from working with very large corporations. I think the first internship I had, I ended up programming more than engineering, uh, but I did learn uh, important skills required for the workplace. I learned a lot more industrial use for Python, VBA, Microsoft VBA, which if uh, you don't know how to use, I guess can be an important skill for a company that does a lot of calculations in Excel and automating those calculations. I think my main project was to get a program that used Excel to be more efficient, and by using VBA, it's astronomically faster to use VBA whenever you automate Excel than to use Python to interface with Excel. It doesn't interface well. But I learned a lot about how they do thermal analysis on parts for the space station. They track the life of the part from when it was on the ground through its life. They have the vibration cycles, they have thermal cycles, and just analyzing the stresses that the part could go through. Then they have information from astronauts when they go up there. Then they do spacewalks externally. They can collect data and you know uh, and it's what Boeing does in Houston, and the team I worked on was analyze the thermal loads on parts, and trying to predict if and when they would fail and what parts they would need to send up there, so that they could plan spacewalks and repair them. And that's all done on the ground. It's no one's going out for a spacewalk every time to try and figure out, hey, does this look cracked? Right? By the time it looks cracked from the outside, you don't really want to wait for them to send a part up. So that was an interesting. Like, you don't think about the maintenance. I think, especially when you're in school. At least I did it before my internship. I didn't really think about the maintenance on these types of structures, right? And the ISS is unique in that it is a structure. It's not a dynamic. It's a mix of both. It is slight in that it is slightly dynamic. It does have slightly some moving parts. Adjusting solar panels and other things, and it accepts spaceships and sends spaceships off. But it has it's largely just a structure that's orbiting the Earth. And so it kind of that was another thing that I learned while working there. Just like the maintenance of these types of things costs a lot of money, costs a lot of manpower, and it's vital to the life of the structure, because ISS is really old in comparison to a lot of the other things in space, and it's meant to it'll eventually be retired. And I do know that Boeing will. I don't know if I can say that.
Well, maybe you shouldn't then.
Yeah, yeah, never mind.
But talking about it
Yes.
being old, I think the Unity module was launched in what, '96?
Yes, I do not know all the dates. I do know it is built of multiple modules. I saw the life size version that they have in Houston. They have a life size version of the space station in like a warehouse. So I got to tour that, and it really gives you like a sense of scale for everything. They have everything, even the Russian thing, that the rocket that they came on, they have a model of that, and so yeah, dude, like they it was a really, for someone who likes space, it was a really cool thing to like go see all these things in person. Yeah.
That is, sounds really amazing. In your time around Johnson Space Center and Boeing and all the contractors, you see anything Artemis related?
No, they gave us wait, is Artemis, what project is Artemis?
Landing people on the moon in 2024. So
Okay, no.
SLS Orion, the
So,
human landing system.
so I didn't see the anything. I didn't see anything directly Artemis related, but I did see a when Boeing was competing. I think Boeing was competing against SpaceX to create the what is it?
The lander?
Not the. It's not the lander. It's the shuttle.
Oh, you're talking about like the Starliner versus
Starliner. That's what it is. So I saw the cockpit for the Starliner. So that was. I don't think that's directly related to Artemis, but that was one of the things that they were working on. Yeah. I mean, I think in general, the interest in space has caused them to start working on this more, but because up until now, I do think most of the energy they were devoting was sustaining the ISS, because the government has pays a lot of money to sustain it, and Boeing does most of the sustaining of the ISS. Yeah.
So I got a question. Do you think humanity's really going to spread out into the rest of the solar system, or will we be mainly confined on Earth, just making little small trips places?
I think. I do think it's inevitable that we end up being a multiplanetary species. I do not know how well connected the two planets will be. In terms of the communication gap, even when Mars is close, is like long in terms of the electronic communication we use, right? So I don't know how easily it would be to communicate, but I do think you will end up having a human colony on Mars, and I think like we're developing technology every day that doesn't seem related right now, but like because technology developed in every field, like health, medicine, agriculture, and space, automation, like just general improvements in technology would all help in establishing life on Mars, because if we're able to figure out how to grow things in the worst conditions on Earth, and then we just have to kind of tweak them a little to get them to work in Mars. Maybe. I don't know a lot about the ecology of Mars. I don't know a lot about the makeup of Mars as a planet. But I do think it's like where there's a will, there's a way, and I do think there's enough money behind the wills that want this to make it happen.
Don't you think our food systems are kind of archaic? I mean, the idea of, growing a plant, waiting for it to produce something that you then go and cut up and cook and eat, when really all your body needs is certain chemicals in a certain proportion. Why not directly create that stuff?
So I would say food, like, I think the growing practices can be evolved, but I think in terms of how we consume food is less. It is archaic, but it's also based on tradition and societal values. A lot of humans are social creatures, and a lot of our socialization happens around the hearth, the meal, the family table. And I think that's an important aspect of humanity, that it, like, yeah, it's archaic in the sense that, yeah, all you really need is like a few vitamins and minerals and calories. But I think the societal aspect of eating food that you spend time making, and not even spend time making, but spending time with people you love and enjoy being around, and doing something primal, I guess. I think that establishes a different connection. It helps to, I think, eating is a break from everyone's lifestyle. And especially now, as everyone seems to be overworked, overstressed, I think societally taking a break and you know, being able to sit at the same table, eat the same food, and talk gives people a break from other things that they do, and B, allows you to understand someone else better. It gives you time to understand someone else better. Not that you can't understand people in other ways, but I think in general food is something that is primal to humans, as like social and societal creatures.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of that's around the actual consumption part, you know,
Yes.
sitting at the table,
Exactly.
having people around,
Mhm.
enjoying the food.
Yeah.
I'm kind of talking about everything that leads up to that moment.
Right.
It's like that.
Why don't we just lab grow and clone and rapid produce these types of things? I think, yeah, that's valid. I think the way, and so like so the growing aspect of it is more archaic than it needs to be. The consumption aspect is, I think, as archaic as it should be. But yeah, the growing aspect, I think lab grown meats, you know, rapidly growing, or you know, climate controlling growing centers so that you can grow year round instead of seasonally. You know, there's new technologies in growing things vertically so that you can grow things 99% more efficiently for that specific amount of land, because now you can grow in a third dimension. You have beds, and you can grow using that, and they're establishing growing facilities where it's just warehouses of doing this. They have this with like cherry tomatoes, or so there's innovations happening that allow you to grow year round, and I think I do think that that's another advancement that will help if you're able to, you know, really get this down perfectly. And I don't think it's too hard in terms of a systems perspective, right? You have a pH sensor, you have a light sensor, you have a moisture sensor. These are all pretty common. I don't think it would be too difficult to construct a system that can sustainably and efficiently grow crops. I mean, and when you talk about sustainability, there's advancements in hydroponics, you know, developing a closed system where you have, you know, fish that consume nutrients that are leached off the plants, which then produce fertilizer for the plants, and it's a cycle. But so yeah, I think all advancements in all types of sustainable growing systems are necessary, but they're happening. And then yeah. Yeah. So generally, I think the archaic portion that we associate in growing food, that's decreasing. Like lab grown meats, there's a company in Barcelona that's 3D printing meats because it gives you a better texture than some of the other meats not grown, but some of this other, like what is it, Impossible Burger, There's a company in Barcelona that's working on 3D printing uh, vegan patties because they're able to control how each of the essentially fibers are layered, and they can give it a more meaty texture because I do think Impossible to nail the flavor pretty well, but the texture's iffy, I guess, sometimes. But yeah, I think in general the the food growing aspect is improving. I just don't think no one really shines a light on it as much. It doesn't make headline news because it's not as no one considers farming or agriculture as a flashy industry. So I think sometimes the advancements aren't well known to the common public, but they're happening. I also think the more flashy a subject is, the more money you can get to research it. So yeah.
Exactly. Cryptocurrency is
Cryptocurrency. I mean, the concerns on crypto are just. I mean, even was Elon Musk and was Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, Kevin O'Leary.
They both came, like Kevin O'Leary, I think, was the first big person to come out against it as not environmentally sustainable due to the amount of power it consumes to keep the network up all the time, and it's because energy is not being sourced from green sources. It's not a green currency. It's essentially running on fossil fuels, right? It's which is I think why Elon Musk also started to pull away. And then I also felt like that's one solution. That's one reason. Yes, the energy itself is not green, but then in I was reading that in third world countries and that would be motivated to mine crypto to increase, because if an upcoming third world country who has extremely high inflation where their currency is not worth that much, if they can tie some of their wealth to a asset that they know that will grow in value, and if you're a country, your buying power is going to be immense in general, and if it essentially it would promote mining of cryptocurrencies with very lax standards, and then I think it would further the wealth disparity that occurs in third world countries, because now you have portions that will consume high amounts of energy, while especially so even in India, like if you went back I think even 10 years, it was common to have a rolling blackout schedule sometimes. And India's progressed a lot, but not every country, in the world is like that. And if they're not incentivized to develop the energy infrastructure across the country, if they're only incentivized really to focus on specific areas where these people who come to mine crypto or where the government mines crypto is, I think that will further the disparity of between rich and poor people. I think, and also it's just what are the societal implications of a currency that the government cannot regulate or control? Like, yes, decentralization is good because we don't really want banks and those types of things to do it, but the government plays a role in affecting inflation and how it manages interest rates and other types of things. I'm not a finance person, so it's very sketchy, but I don't know. I don't know. Like the U.S. would have to, or countries in general would have to embrace this as a currency so that they could then regulate it somewhat by developing interest rates on the currency itself. But also, cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, at least, as far as I know, is supposed to be one where there will eventually be a limited supply, and that essentially turns it as a zero-sum game, which changes some types of how I think, because right now we consider it a zero-sum game in some aspects, but it's not really. The government can always print more money, and then inflation will go up, but when it actually is a zero-sum game, and it really is really like a limited amount of money, I don't know if that would be a benefit or a negative for society. That's my 2 cents. I'm not a finance. I'm not a. But I don't know. I don't think we've ever. I don't think having anything as a zero sum game is an extreme positive. If it's, and that's where the regulation kind of steps in. But the whole point about it is that it's deregulated. It's decentralized. So I don't know.
I mean, that is an interesting point because part of currency is it's flowing through the economy.
Yes.
In hyperinflation, people are just tossing away and as much as they can. And then in deflation, people are like, I come back tomorrow. I bet you I get 2 of those if I just wait a day. And, the money's not flowing.
Yeah, velocity of money is, I think that's what you're talking about.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
But, coming back to the Boeing thing.
Yes.
And the International Space Station. A lot of people are like, hey, why are we going to the moon? Why don't we just go to Mars? And the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is astronauts actually are not maintaining their craft. Anytime they have a problem, they call down, and there's like an army of engineers that get to work on it, that are monitoring it, that are doing the testing like you're talking about, setting up supplies, all this. And as you get further and further away, like towards Mars, you now have to have all those skill sets on site because you don't have them.
It would be impossible to do servicing, and it's also impossible to do predictions so far ahead for you to be able to plan these trips, right? If it takes, I don't know off the top of my head how long it takes to get to Mars.
6 months to get there.
Yeah, so 6 months, that's a really long time period to try and predict everything in, and so you need to have all these things on site. Again, depending on what the chemical makeup of Mars is, I don't know. But if you're able to start mining things on Mars for like parts, and then we have, there are advancements in additive technology. So if you can turn it into a dust that we can then use 3D printers to make parts, that would be great. But then you'd need to heat treat them probably and get them to be the right size. A lot of time goes into qualifying parts, especially for space, for aerospace. Sometimes aerospace, you have to wait months because the number of people that are qualified to make parts for planes, for helicopters, gears and the bodies of engines are all made from metal, and they're too complex right now for our current 3D printers to print very well, and 3D printers haven't been qualified by any association for safety, and so you need to have them done by master craftsmen. And as the number of master craftsmen decrease, the longer the lead times are in the aerospace industry. Right now, it could take you 18 months to get a gear. Because there's only a handful of manufacturers that are qualified to make that high qualified part, and all of the aerospace companies use them, right? Not just like for space. I mean, even including defense. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, any other defense company in the U.S. uses the same companies to make parts. And so when all of them are issuing orders, and when one company is like, we're not gonna make these parts anymore for you specifically because it doesn't, you don't order enough or do anything, it becomes tricky. So yeah, I think the fact that we haven't been able to automate this process yet, and I think part of what will help in automating it is using artificial intelligence to help design the main part in general, because artificial intelligence and topology researchers can kind of really make a more streamlined, easy to manufacture design, and then just advancements in 3D printing technology. Getting the resolution higher, getting the finish more polished. I think that those improvements will happen with time. But then you also have there's also like composite 3D printing that's coming up. There's a company in California that does carbon fiber composite printing, and that they have a specialized robot that kind of they have a basically the base layer of the part, and they print on that so that they don't have to build a structure to do that, but they print using that as a layout, and they were able to print a part, and I think they printed a bicycle out of composite materials using that printer, and they built a few other things. I think they built a scooter too, like an e-scooter. But I think in general, so yeah, it all comes back to advancements in all different areas of technology which don't seem directly related to space are required for life on Mars to be possible. And so manufacturing, especially automated manufacturing like 3D printers, because you're not going to have the workforce and the people you want to send out there. You'll probably want a diverse sect, right? People who are engineers, you want doctors, you want people who are specialized in agriculture, you want people who are specialized in, working on machines, and so you want a diverse population. But even then, you would either you'd have to invest a lot of money in sending a large group of these people, or sending a smaller group with highly automated machines, or just send robots first, right? There's always the thing of sending robots first and kind of tracking them via, because if it's a robot, you're not really worried about life on robots, so that would be another way to do it. But I think advancements just across the board are still required. But yeah, it's gonna happen eventually. So it's more a matter of when will we have everything at every level ready to make it sustainable, because we have the space technology we have. We're able to send. We've been sending things farther than Mars for a while. So
Sure.
that's not the thing that's holding us back. The stopgap is in our abilities to make a sustainable life there, and that's going to be solved through the agricultural, through the mechanical, through the automation, and all those types of things. Yeah.
So did you know that NASA is planning to send people to the moon in 2024 for the first time since 1972?
I heard of it. I don't know anything other than I knew they were planning on sending people back to the moon. I didn't know about the time frame or anything.
Oh, what do you think about that?
I think it's good. Generally, is the purpose just for the going to the moon, or are they planning on doing experiments on the moon? Are they planning on setting up a base on the moon? I guess. Is there a purpose beyond PR of getting people to the moon and back safely again? Because while it's good to, as I think, it's always good to increase interest in space, in just STEM in general, but at the end of the day, taxpayers are paying for this. There should be a bigger purpose than because we know we can get to we did it a really long time ago with way worse technology. So going to the moon, we understand that it's possible. If we go to the moon again, I think that there has to be a larger reason than we're just going to go back to the moon, because I think it's probably it's going to be expensive, and unless there's like some scientific inquiry that requires them to be on the moon, or it's establishing something on the moon that will be better for future moon travel or future space travel in general, that I think that is the underlying question that I would have, is how much of it is required and how much of it is they just wanted to do it.
Well, I guess if you share the vision of humanity spreading out throughout the solar system, doesn't the moon seem like a logical step in that progression?
Yes, I definitely think that establishing a base on the moon is a really logical step in the progression of humans as a multiplanetary species. But yeah, I think so. Yeah, if again, I think getting to the moon has been done, especially by NASA earlier, um, and so if and I think going to the moon again is good, but I would say ideally there would be a deeper purpose than we're just going to want to go to the moon again.
We discovered a kind of interesting thing about the moon since the last time we've been there.
Okay.
That there's actually appears to be water ice frozen in these permanently shadowed areas near the poles, these craters.
Yep.
So there's some thought that that might be a strategic resource.
And so there would be sending people to investigate that, or is it just my thoughts on water being on the moon?
I mean that's one thing. Yeah. I mean supposedly, you could use it for drinking. You could turn it into air. You can use it for rocket fuel.
Yeah.
But there's a lot we don't know about the moon.
Yes.
It's a lot of geology up there still yet to be done.
And so if they're going up there for scientific inquiry to learn more about the moon in general, then I think it's worth it, right? If they're going to like study the moon, learn more about the geography, the geology, exploring the water that was detected, and like, it's because, I think. If I don't know what the mission plan is, but if these are the mission plans, I think it's worth going to the moon then.
And I mean, it's like a huge cruise ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's on the cruise ship for the same reason.
Yeah. Although cruise is generally a waste of resources. Personal opinion. I've been on one, and so firsthand I was like, it was 6th grade. But yeah, in general, cruises are not the best. A good sign of excess, I think, are cruise ships. So yeah. But, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Let's see. If it was safe and affordable, would you go into space?
Safe and affordable, yeah, probably. It sounds fun. I'm not gonna. I think, especially when you hear about people who've been to space, I think it helps put in perspective, I guess, what we as a species are, what you as an individual are, like that we really are part of a planet. Because I think every day we've been segmented as people into countries, states, territories, schools, going to space. I think that's that experience. I think I've heard a lot of people, a lot of the astronauts who go to space. One of the main things is the realization. Oh, like seeing the Earth that you live, is everyone lives in one place. Really, I think that's the general idea that I think would be really cool. But also, I just think going to space is cool, like zero gravity, experiencing zero gravity, experience all these different things. I think that's really cool. But mainly, I think that experience is supposed to be really perspective shifting, right? I would say you could compare it to doing psychedelics in a way where a lot of people after doing psychedelics say that they somehow they see the world differently. They connect with people more. They realize that they're part of a bigger thing. I think going to seeing the Earth from that perspective could do something similar. So.
They actually have a word for it.
Yes.
The overview effect.
Okay. Yeah.
Where you kind of have this greater sense of consciousness and
yeah.
kind of step out. How far would you go? Just to orbit, or to the moon and back, or would you see yourself immigrating to Mars?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I would immigrate to Mars. I feel because that would require leaving a lot of people behind, I think.
Are convincing them.
Or convincing them, right? But then is how who are the people that they're choosing, right? They're not going to be choosing the elderly people to go to Mars. They're going to be choosing the younger people, right? But also not children. It's going to be a very specific age, right? I think probably like
20s to 40s, maybe
20s to 40s, 20 to 30, 20 to 40, right? They'd want people who are fit enough to withstand space travel, and also fit enough to have to do labor on Mars, regardless of decreased gravity. You also have to just be fit enough to do labor.
Well, the decreased gravity is going to lose its effect after a while. I mean, if you've been training in 1G and then suddenly you're at 1/3 G, and your body's going to adapt so that you're expending as much effort in the 1/3 G as you would here.
Yeah, exactly. So everything's gonna be different. So I don't know about Mars. I'd probably go to the moon. I wouldn't live there permanently because it's close enough to come back and forth. But I do think that would be a cool place to just visit. I would definitely go on vacation to the moon. Yeah. I don't know if I want to vacation in just orbit. I feel like that's a little cramped. I'm a little bit on the taller side here. I don't know if I would want to be in the space station. I do think there's some luxuries afforded to you when you do not have to be in essentially a satellite that I think I would prefer. So I would probably prefer going to the moon over just in orbit.
Do you think you'll have that opportunity in your lifetime?
Maybe. I mean, highly. It's getting likelier every year that it happens. But yeah. I think within my lifetime it'll probably be a thing. Yeah.
So I was talking to you earlier about Discovery having the Who Wants to Be an Astronaut show.
Yes. Yeah.
You see yourself participating in that?
I mean, I'll apply. It sounds fun. We'll see.
I would definitely tune in if you were on it.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to come for the cake cutting?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll come.
Yeah.
Like how much longer?
Maybe 3 minutes?
Yeah. Take your time.
I love it. 3 minutes. Oh, okay. Then take your time. Let's see. Okay, so I see this as a time capsule for future generations.
Okay.
What was humanity like right before we took those first steps towards actually settling the solar system?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of like for people 50 years, 100 years from now, looking back on this time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would want them to know?
People. Okay, let's see. Well, I don't know what. Hopefully, the focus of society is, hopefully by the time we become a spacefaring society, that we've become closer globally. Right now I think, especially in the U.S., we're coming off a wave of division, ideologically, part of which is artificially constructed. And so I hope like that the division that we have now is solved either through the globe coming together to explore space, or at least by the time we explore space that it's dissolved. I think coming together globally is an important step before you can make it, because I do think it'll be multi-country effort, probably, but I do think it's important to establish, because once we become multi-planetary, then the divisions seem, I guess, more inconsequential. What is a country? Because from space, everything looks like one piece of land. And so I think the divisions, I hope those erode the more we become
Okay.
space.
Well, it looks like we're gonna have to cut it off there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.